She Said, a movie that Dave saw and basically no one else saw this weekend.
Yes, she said had a very disappointing box office, like $2-ish million in a wide release. Very, very poor, very disappointing. Continuing the trend of adult dramas more or less struggling at the box office, unfortunately. Which also is unfortunate because I think She Said is a genre subgenre, which is the journalism movie pursuit of a story movie that is quite popular and well liked and familiar formula for a reason because it's often very effective. She Said, of course, is about the recent developments, which of course is the Liz Toohey, Jodie Cantor pursuit to tell the Harvey Weinstein sexual misconduct Miramax Weinstein Company story in the New York Times, which of course came out in 2017. And me and you, we remember this. I think most people remember this. This is relatively recent news. This story, and I think that's what makes it a bit different from a movie like All the President's Men or Spotlight. The beacons of this genre, which came out just a bit further removed from the events they are dramatizing. Right. Everything with Me Too and the reckoning that caused, gratefully, of course, is still very fresh, very new with people, right? Like Weinstein, he got his sentencing like less than a year ago, right? This is very, very fresh, but nonetheless, we have She Said come out. That story got a Pulitzer Prize. The reporters made it into a book, and now we've adapted this book into a film. Maria Schrader, the German actor and director who made Unorthodox for Netflix, is the director at the helm here, and then you cast it with I think two big time well liked directors, actors, Carey Mulligan and Zoe Kazan, and I think She Said is good. It's effective. It hits all those notes you expect from a journalism story. I think the one thing that I think holds She Said back is that this story and like, the way this story is told, it doesn't quite have as much dramatic tension as some other, paragons of this genre. I think that's the one thing that can maybe make or break a journalism drama, where if you don't see those reporters feeling like they're racing against the clock or in some kind of personal danger, whatever it might be, then you might be lacking a bit of tension, a bit of drama. I think She Said maybe falls more in line with a movie like The Post, the Spielberg movie recently about the Panama Papers. You know, that being said, I think Kazan and Mulligan are really good, especially Carey Mulligan. Like she just makes the most badass like journalist I've ever seen. Like I think everyone would just immediately tell her whatever she asked if they were questioned by her. Uh, Nonetheless, I think the really the shining moments of She Said would be these two scenes with two victims of Harvey Weinstein when they're being interviewed, and that would be Samantha Morton playing Zelda Perkins and Jennifer Ely playing Laura Madden, and they were two key sources that went on the record to help push the New York Times to publish a story when they did, and those two scenes, I think, are She Said it's most dramatic, most personal, most affecting. Obviously it's a terrible story that everyone knows at this point, but when you see it, I think kind of dramatized via the personal, individual side of that story. I think that's where you really get into the nitty gritty of it, and like it feels most affecting. You know, you have Andre Brower as Dean Bakay at the New York Times and Patricia Clarkson as Rebecca Corbett. They don't get a whole lot to do. They're only in it just a little bit. Although I did think Andre Brower was like, really great as McKay, particularly when he's just like basically telling Weinstein to fuck off on the phone. She Said does makes a clear decision to not put Harvey Weinstein in the movie. They just show him like from the back, and they have his voice in the film. But it's really a story, a movie about the reporters and the reporters meeting some of the victims that end up, helping them tell that story. So it's kind of been pegged as a Oscar contender. I think it's kind of like probably a back half like Best Picture nominee might get in there. And on the acting side of things, they're running Carey Mulligan and supporting actress, which might help her get through. We'll see
Hmm.
about that. Obviously, Carey Mulligan nominated multiple times, just 2 years ago, a promising young woman, so she's on the awards season mind for sure. But yeah, I think she said, it's a really good, really solid journalism movie, but doesn't quite reach the highs of like the best of the genre, which of course is totally fine. I think it was kind of interesting to watch this movie, really knowing where it's going the whole time because it's so fresh. And I
Hmm.
think that might be more of a fault to some people than it is to me. But yeah, I would still recommend it.
Yeah, it's interesting. Love Carrie Mulligan. Obviously, I think she's one of the it's just one of the highest hit rates in terms of
Mm,
the films that she makes. But I hear Carrie Mulligan and Zoe Kazan at the top of this, and then I think about some of the more well known of these, like The Post or Spotlight. Those all have much bigger actors at the top.
yeah,
And the small box office almost feels like if this was like Florence Pugh as the lead, would that have gotten more people to go? Or is it that the
right,
story if it's hard to like understand why this one flopped because I think people are interested in this. I wonder if maybe there's also some fatigue around the story because
yeah.
I mean, Weinstein recently was just in the news. I forgot if his case is was he sentenced recently? Was that
He
what
was
happened?
sentenced in the U.S., but he has other pending charges. I believe he has
Of course.
charges in London still pending, and whatever.
Ugh.
He gone for
Yeah.
sure. But I mean, yeah, to that point, All the President's Men stars Robert Redford and Dustin Hoffman. Just a bit of a
Yeah.
different caliber of star there.
Exactly. So I wonder if that would have made a difference. But I can't wait to check it out when I get a chance. Add it to my list of must sees for the year.